So the next thing I want to share with you, just right out of the gate, are a bunch of different resources which will be helpful to you as you're learning how to work with HTML and CSS and build websites. And so again, you can get to all of these resources by going to this URL right here. And so you can pause the video and write that down, but it's goo.gl R3, capital R, 3 CZXV, and that'll bring you to this page right here. And once you're here, you could follow links to, here I have a list of comprehensive notes, a lot more resources in there. So this is kind of like, these are my refined resources right here. But as you're learning HTML and CSS, Code Academy, this is a great place to start. And so they have a course on HTML and CSS. They also have another one called like building websites or something like that. You want the one that is HTML and CSS. So if you scroll to the bottom at their website, scroll down to the bottom, right here, HTML and CSS, that is the one you want. You do not want make a website. So this is a great place to start. It's 7 hours. That's what they estimate it'll take. And so, just do an hour a day for a week. You could pause these videos, go do that, and then come back. And that's going to give you a really solid introduction to HTML and CSS. Great thing to start with. The next really valuable resource is there's a book that this gentleman, Shay Howe, has written. And you could purchase this book, but the book that you could purchase is not as current as his website, which has the exact same information. And so you could come here to his website, and we're going to be paralleling his training right here. We'll be kind of like doing things in the same step as we go through our training. So the training I'm putting together, you could come to his book and see how does he describe it, and just take another look at pretty much the same material that we're going to be going through. So another really fantastic resource to use. MDN, Mozilla Developer Network. So that's what you want to use when you're looking up what is the definitive sort of way, the definitive source, right? So this is really important. So often when people search for things like, let's say, image element HTML, I search for that. One of the first things that always comes up is something called W3 Schools. And you want to stay away from W3 Schools. It's just owned by a couple of guys, and they don't always keep it current and up to date. And it's not any official website. It's just a website. It's not an official website. And so the W3, if we look at what the W3 is, we could Google that, and we see W3 is the World Wide Web Consortium. So that's an official organization which helps sort of develop, HTML, CSS, the web, how we do everything. But W3 Schools is just a bunch of guys who created a website with a name to make people think that, oh, it's affiliated with W3. It is not. So I do not recommend W3 Schools. What I do recommend is anytime you want to know something, type in MDN and then whatever your search is. So you can see here I've done MDN absolute versus relative URL, MDN no closing tags, MDN image, MDN HTML. So MDN stands for Mozilla Developer Network. And Mozilla Developer Network, Mozilla is the same people who created the Firefox browser. And this is a definitive source for getting information about the web. So it's absolute must know. And I'll just share that right out of the gate. Webplatform.org is a new thing which is coming on. And it is also an official sort of source, like a really good trusted source to come from. So a lot of the information here is pulled from MDN. All right, so MDN is where you want to go. Web platform, I just kind of showed that FYI. And at MDN, they have Learning the Web. And so this is another really great resource for reading and, curl up with your iPad at night before you go to bed and read for a half hour kind of a deal. So highly recommend that too. When you want to learn layout, when we get to learning layout, there's a couple of resources that we'll use, and those are listed here. And again, when you want to reference something, look something up, MDN is where you go to do that. And we could see all of the HTML elements, all of the attributes, CSS reference, so that's going to be really important. There's another really useful website called caniuse.com. And Can I Use is where you go to check out, what kind of support in all of the different browsers is this thing that I'm going to be programming with. And so for instance, and I know this is, if you're new to HTML and CSS, which is why you're taking this training, we're going to learn how to use all this stuff. But Can I Use is a really useful resource. And so here I'm looking for Flexbox, and I can see, hey, if I use Flexbox, 95% of the marketplace understands that. So I can build sites with something called Flexbox, and 95% of the people out there will be able to use it well. The only people who won't be able to use it well are people who are still using IE8 and IE9. And then, you know, basically, though, those are just like a bunch of hillbillies in Alabama or something, right? Actually, that's a joke, but probably like, you know, and they're probably like just people who haven't upgraded their browser, and governments sometimes have really old browsers, government employees and things like that, because they have to keep them old because they need certain software working or whatever. All right, so that's can I use. And then there's information about CSS selectors, and then different tools, right? And information on craftsmanship and performance and favicons and statistics, and then staying current. So we've already seen Rand Fishkin at Moz, who's the guy who did the statistics on web versus apps and the video. So that's a really great guy to follow and just hear what he has to say. And the Web Ahead is also a really awesome podcast. And so I think it's like the best podcast of 2015 or something like that. It's a really, you know, well done. But they're industry professionals in the web creating business who talked to this woman, Jen. And Jen's awesome. She's also in the business, so definitely worth checking out. So those are some resources to help you as we're traveling this path together and learning about creating websites. And we will be referencing and using these resources throughout the course. So I just wanted to give them to you right at the beginning so that as you go to sleep tonight, you want to do a little bit more reading, you can pull up MDN, Learning the Web, and start figuring that out. All right, really helpful resources.